So how did Regina Belle feel about being relentlessly compared to Anita Baker? So I've stated this before, but I'll say it again. I'm a big fan of Anita Baker. She's in my top 10 greatest of all time in terms of soul music artists. Therefore, I honestly don't think any female R&B artist of her generation was anywhere close to being a real threat to her Queen of the Quiet Storm crown. To further illustrate the point, I don't think any female R&B artist can be fairly matched up with Anita in a versus, for example. R&B fans have thrown out Sade's name as a possible versus challenger for Anita, and that makes sense, kind of. In fact, I put up a video a while ago comparing their chart performances on Billboard. The link is in the description. But I actually think the artistry of both Anita and Sade individually are so unique that no one is truly comparable to either one of them, nor are they all that comparable to each other. With that said, the music industry, from the A&R departments at record labels to the managers, the promoters, journalists, and especially fans, love to make comparisons between artists. And Anita Baker, as great as she is, was compared to those who came before her at the beginning of her musical campaign, when she was at her peak, and throughout her remarkable career. I laid out just a few details that illustrated Anita's hustle and perseverance in the previous video. The link is in the description. She showed incredible talent in the early years with Chapter 8 and then with her solo debut album. But it was her second album, Rapture, that made Anita a superstar and bestowed her with instant legendary status. The Rapture album shook up the music industry a bit. Anita gained a broad pop audience while maintaining a strong hold on the true soul music audience. Plus, she earned the respect of many traditional jazz music fans. With that one album, Anita led a movement that essentially redefined R&B music, popularizing the Quiet Storm format and introduced this jazzy soulful flow to a very welcoming music world. The success of Rapture set off a trend which sparked somewhat of a musical gold rush. Record labels signed new female vocalists searching for that next Anita Baker, determined to capitalize off this fresh, new jazzy soul sound that Anita didn't necessarily start, but certainly made world famous. Now, most of the artists who came onto the scene during this Quiet Storm R&B era of the late 80s, they were solid, but not special. Regina Belle was definitely special. There were some striking similarities between Anita and Regina. The most prominent was the shared influence jazz had on their music. The influence of jazz on Anita's music is immediate once you hear the first vocal note on any of her songs. But jazz also had a strong influence on Regina's music as well. A surprising bet you didn't know nugget. Regina played tuba in her high school marching band, but her true gift was as a vocalist. Regina wanted to study jazz in college, but the jazz band at the school she attended, Rutgers University, didn't have vocalists. Still, she listened studiously to the musical works of legendary jazz singers like Sarah Vaughan and Billie Holiday, which influenced her own developing sound when she signed a contract with Columbia Records. Regina Belle released her debut album, All By Myself, on June 1st, 1987. Anita and Regina's vocals are different in tone, but similar in terms of strength and clarity. Here's a comparison of the two singers written by one writer when Regina's debut was released. Quote, Belle is being promoted as part of the retro nuevo black vocal style, whose diva is Anita Baker. And Belle does have a burgundy burnished tone and a fondness for melomastic embellishments similar to Baker's, although Belle avoids Baker's arch vocal mannerisms. Actually, Belle is a much more versatile singer, able to do big pop ballads and dance grooves, as well as the quiet storm ballads that are the heart of retro nuevo." Unquote. Here's another review of Regina's debut album. Quote, "The temptation is to compare this New Jerseyite to Anita Baker. That's because Belle has recorded the same type of album, mostly mellow, sometimes jazzy, songs about one-on-one relationships. The comparisons arise also because Belle's debut is an excellent one. The first single, the soulful ballad Show Me the Way, isn't even the best song. Despite the comparisons to Anita, Belle's voice is distinctive, and her follow-up album should be much anticipated." Unquote. In addition to their music, Regina and Anita's images also highly resemble each other. Both were sexy and sultry, but in a very classy and sophisticated way. Seductive, but not in an overly aggressive way that diminished or cheapened their vocal gifts. Anita Baker wasn't the only powerhouse female vocalist Regina was being compared to. Miss Belle's talents were also being sized up next to her New Jersey homegirl, the one and only Whitney Houston. Here's what another writer stated in the review of Regina's debut album. Quote, "Belle shoots the gap between Whitney Houston and Anita Baker. Fans of either artist would find many virtues to please them on All By Myself." Unquote. Listen to part of yet another review of Regina's debut album. Quote, "Here's an unexpected, unpretentious little gem. For Belle, there has been none of the hoopla that attended the debuts of Whitney Houston and Sade. Yet this jazzy pop soul record is nearly as remarkable as their initial efforts. Vocally, Belle, a 24-year-old New Jersey native, is more aggressive than Sade and less elegant than Anita Baker, the singer to whom she is most likely to be compared. Michael Powell, who produced Baker's Rapture, worked on 4 of the 9 tracks on Regina's debut album. Belle sounds less slick than Houston. In fact, she sounds a bit rough on the edges, which adds to her appeal." Unquote. And just to give further evidence of the relentless comparisons Regina endured to Anita, here's part of another review of Belle's debut album. Quote, "Regina, Rapture Revisited. Belle's debut album contains some of the most impressive singing to come along since Anita Baker's Rapture last year. In power, Belle's vocals approach those of Patti LaBelle without the campiness or overreaching stridence, and she approaches each song as if it were a gem in need of her sure-handed polish. While this 24-year-old style invites comparisons to other singers, Belle has the talent to stand toe-to-toe with any female contemporary R&B pop singer you might name." Unquote. So we've heard from several writers on the Anita Baker comparisons, but what were Regina Belle's own thoughts at the time on being compared to Miss Baker? Here's part of a nice profile on Regina at the time of her debut album's release. Regina's comments about her voice versus Anita's are interesting. So, quote, "Last year at this time, fans and critics were raving about R&B jazz singer Anita Baker. With that golden do-everything voice, high, strong, far-ranging, and packed with emotion, she was hailed as Aretha Franklin, Sarah Vaughan, and Billie Holiday all rolled into one tiny package. Some even predicted there wouldn't be another one like her in a decade. How time flies. A year later, another R&B jazz singer, Regina Belle, is getting similar raves. Her first album, All By Myself on Columbia, has sold an impressive 300,000 copies, generating considerable interest in the 24-year-old singer from Englewood, New Jersey. The debate among music fans about who's better, Belle or Baker, continues. Belle, who claims she's not sick of being compared to Baker, offered her own comparisons recently in her West Hollywood hotel room while waiting for a driver to pick her up to take her to a TV taping. So here's what Regina said, quote, She sings R&B with jazzy inflections like I do. But Anita has a different vocal timbre. My timbre is a lot brighter than hers. I sing with my mouth more open, which gives me a brighter sound. She sings with her mouth more closed, which gives a darker tone to her songs. I can do a lot of things with my voice. I can change the timbre. I can sing soft or loud. I can scream or do whatever. I'm not restricted, but you can't tell what I can really do by listening to the album. That shows only a quarter of what I can do. Unquote. The profile continues. One of the things Belle can do is sound like Baker. On parts of several songs on the album, you'd swear it was Baker singing, but undoubtedly that's somewhat due to the guidance of Michael J. Powell, who co-produced the album with Nick Martinelli. Powell is well acquainted with Baker's style. He produced Rapture, her smash hit album. Regina's 1987 debut was a solid record that established her as an up-and-coming soulful songstress. Though the album didn't reach platinum or gold status, the record still put the R&B game on notice. The album reached the top 20, peaking at number 14 on the R&B albums chart. The album's success was led by the hit song Show Me the Way, which spent 3 weeks in the number 2 spot on the R&B singles chart in July of '87. Show Me the Way was a really strong record. It perfectly captured the trending smooth jazzy sound of that R&B era. The hit basically sounds like the kind of record Anita Baker could have recorded for one of her albums. Regina Belle dropped her breakthrough sophomore album, Stay With Me, 2 years later in August of 1989. The album produced 4 top 10 hits on the R&B singles chart. This Is Love peaked at number 7, What Goes Around peaked at number 3, Baby Come to Me and Make It Like It Was both went to number 1. In fact, it was Baby Come to Me and the incredibly powerful record Make It Like It Was that helped elevate Regina's stardom very close to Anita Baker's level. Stay With Me went to number 1 on the R&B albums chart. It was Regina's first gold record and her most memorable effort in terms of legacy. The release of Stay With Me is when the magic really started to materialize for Miss Belle. Stay With Me, in my opinion, is Regina's Rapture. What are your thoughts on the countless Anita versus Regina comparisons back in the day? Make sure you hit the like button and I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Your support is much appreciated. Here at Soulful Charts, we got the receipts. Thanks for joining me. Peace.